Okay, ready? I want to be recorded. I want my picture on the video too.
Yeah, it's recording.
So welcome everyone, and so glad you're here with us. Yes, it is the summer, and people are doing all kinds of different things today. But we're really delighted to come together again and continue this journey that we make together in relationship to this challenge that faces our community. And today I'm really delighted that Nicole is going to be back with us. She's going to be talking about dementia-capable or dementia-friendly communities, and we can talk a little bit about that afterwards. There'll be some time for question and answer, I'm sure. I did want to make a couple of announcements to you. One is, if I sent out this information before about, and you all heard, or may have heard, Pam and Gary talk about their program specifically designed for caregivers of people with dementia. It's a wonderful opportunity. There's no charge for it. It'll be through the summer when nobody has anything else to do anyway, right? And they're still setting the time with it, but they do hope to start in June. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can talk with me or you can email them. I do have their card. They're out of town right now. But anyway, please do take advantage of this. We know that the stress for caregivers is such that caregivers tend to die before the person with dementia dies. That's how much stress is involved. So it's very important that you take care of yourself and give yourself permission. And if there's an issue about leaving your loved one behind, we're going to find any possible way that we can to make that happen for you. So that's that announcement about the support group. Also just wanted to mention, I've been taking the course on preventing dementia, which is really about reducing the probability of it. That is an issue for individuals, and it's also an issue in relationship to communities. And so when we talk today, Regina, or Nicole, I'm sure you're going to be thinking a little bit about the impact on the community. How can communities, not just individuals, how can communities find ways of reducing the risk of dementia? And it is an interesting conversation to have about that. So I'm glad that Jim is here from my HOA, and appreciate the support you offered through that communication. And I think we'd like to get all the HOA people together and say, hey, all of these HOAs in Green Valley, help us look together at this issue and how we can do a better job of becoming a dementia-friendly community. Finally, Kay is here. I got your name right. And she's got about 3 hats on. You can't see them. But Kay, would you like to come up real briefly and tell us a couple of things that you're here to comment about?
So, hi everybody. My name is Kay Boone, and I've been in hospice for 8 years, I guess. And so that's the first thing. That's what I do. And if you guys ever have any questions about end-stage dementia, please don't hesitate to call me. I don't care what time of day it is, if you're having a problem or you just don't know what to do. I want to be here to serve you and to answer questions. So I'm well versed in it. So I have 3 hats. So hospice is my first one, and that's me. But I had 2 people that couldn't make it. They're out of town, so I told them that I would help spread the word around a little bit. So this is Cynthia. Cynthia has opened a new business, and it's for elder care management. So she'll go in and try to help you manage your care and make sure that you're getting the right kind of care and to the resources that you need. And it's very interesting. She's a social worker, and I've worked with her for quite a few years. So if you have any questions about her brochure's up there, and you can talk to me about it as well. Last but not least, I'm here to represent Lynn Severe. Lynn is not in town. She's actually celebrating 1 year anniversary of her husband's death. So keep her in your thoughts. She has started a new organization or a new volunteer program called the Green Valley Cares. And you might have seen it on the front page of the Green Valley newspaper several weeks ago. I am all for this. There's so many lonely people in here in Green Valley, Sarita, they don't have any interaction. And so it's where the volunteers and organizations come together and serve one another, giving support to caregivers and to the lonely here. And she has a meeting that's coming up, so I gave you the information on the meeting, so pick this up. It was very good. She does a little education thing before the meeting, so it's a meeting before the meeting. And it was really interesting, so she always tries to do some education, and then we're trying to get this group off and running. So if you know anybody who wants to volunteer, give them the information as well. How was that?
Very good.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so I'll turn it over now to Nicole. Nicole is with us from Pima Council on Aging, and delighted that you're with us, the Community Education Specialist.
Yes, thank you. And touching on what both of them said, just if anyone was not here last time that I was here, one of the biggest things with prevention is that social isolation. That's one of the biggest risk factors, so that directly goes to the dementia piece of this. So Pima Council on Aging, Pima County, Green Valley, we want to be dementia-friendly communities. We're going to look a little bit deeper at what does that actually mean. We keep saying that. We want to be dementia-friendly. What does that actually mean? Overview. I just want to give you a brief overview of what Dementia Capable Southern Arizona is. That's the group that I'm with. Most of you are probably familiar with it at this point. We've had people come out before. Going through just kind of a review of some of the dementia points. Why is this such an important issue? What is a dementia-friendly community? If we have time, I'll go through church-specific dementia-friendly tips. If not, we can do that in a whole nother time, and I'll provide these slides also. Dementia-Capable Southern Arizona, community-wide, we are trying to create dementia-friendly, dementia-inclusive environments, providing support services for people living with any type of dementia, their caregivers. Two of our focus areas are those living alone and other underserved populations. In Pima County, there are, I think, an estimated about 8,000 people who are living with dementia and living alone. So that is an especially vulnerable population that we're trying to really focus on. Overview, what is dementia? Just remembering that it is not a specific disease. Dementia itself is not a disease. It's kind of an umbrella term. There are a lot of diseases under it. It is something chronic, persistent, progressive disorder caused by a brain disease or injury that produces a decline in memory and cognitive functioning from previous levels. It is severe enough, thank you, that it impacts daily living. So this is not, those senior moments. What was that word I was looking for? These are not the, typical aging. This is something that is going to continue progressing and it's affecting daily life. Why do we need dementia-friendly communities? 1 in 3 older adults when they pass have some form of dementia. So this is very, very common. In the US, there are about 6.5 million people living with Alzheimer's. And I said how dementia is not a disease itself. It's kind of an umbrella term. Alzheimer's is a form of dementia. It's the most common form of dementia. That's why you'll hear that one the most. It's 60 to 80% of dementia cases. So Alzheimer's alone projected to reach 14 million people in the US by 2050. And that's just that one type of dementia. So this is a growing problem. Arizona, unfortunately, is the fastest growing state in the nation for Alzheimer's. It is the 4th leading cause of death in Arizona. So it is really important that we get people talking about this, doing everything that we can to help with this. And this is the Pima County number overall, projected in the next couple years to reach 29,000 people in Pima County who are living with some form of dementia. This one, I'm going to kind of skip over because I want to have time for questions at the end. So this was just a little interactive activity. You guys know how to brush your teeth. The point was simple tasks that, like brushing your teeth, if you start really breaking it down, you can get dozens of steps out of it. And, you know, take the lid off the toothpaste, put the toothpaste on the toothbrush. Things that we kind of take for granted can become very difficult if you're having problems with putting things in order. The sequencing is not going to be very helpful if you are putting the toothbrush into your mouth and then you're putting the toothpaste on it. Or if someone writes you 20 steps of how to brush your teeth and then you forget what the word toothbrush means, probably about 15 of those aren't going to make any sense. So just realizing simple things can become very difficult, and we want to help people continue doing those as much as possible. So dementia is not just an individual issue, it is a community issue. That's why we want these dementia-friendly communities. We want to address it at a community level. Every part of the community has some unique role that they can play in addressing dementia. From individual people, caregivers, direct care workers, but also faith communities, government, banking, law. Every sector of the community in some way can become more dementia-friendly. We're all kind of cogs that we want to get kind of working together to create a more dementia-friendly community. And I included on here, if anyone is familiar with the 1 Corinthians 12, that one part of the body is not more important than the other. We can't say, well, we in the faith community, we're the heart, so we don't need the lungs, we don't need the brain. We want to get everyone involved to be working as cohesively as possible. A dementia-capable, dementia-friendly, dementia-inclusive community taking action to foster a good quality of life for people who are living with dementia and their care partners. Decreasing the stigma is one of the first things, just getting people talking about it, getting people comfortable, acknowledging it. It's not something pleasant, but it's not something that we need to avoid and kind of brush under the rug. We want people talking about it, we want people aware of it. If you're not aware of something, you can't prevent it, you can't address it if you're not acknowledging it. Increasing opportunities for meaningful social interaction. Dementia is very, very isolating, not only for the person living with it, but for caregivers. It's hard to go out, and a lot of times there's withdrawal for the people living with it. I'm having a harder time remembering how to do these activities, so I don't necessarily want to go. It's hard for me to sit in one place through the service, so I'm just going to withdraw from the church. I'm having trouble keeping up with the conversations, so I'm not going to meet up with my friends because it's embarrassing to me. So it can be very isolating for the people living with dementia. Also for the caregivers, can I go to this place? What if it's a very unpredictable sometimes? What if there's a behavior? What if they say or do something that would, is not going to be seen appropriate, and the people there aren't familiar with what's going on? Are we going to get looks? Are we going to, is it going to be an issue? We want the people living with dementia and their caregivers to continue being able to be active in the community, continue being involved in their having that social interaction. Offering support in addressing the changing needs of people living with dementia, getting them connected with any resources that they need, services that are available in the community. Dementia-friendly communities. This is not Okay, check, we've reached the dementia-friendly, we checked off that we're a dementia-friendly community, we're done. This is a process and something that we want to continue improving on, but also there's going to be, overturn. It's something that is going to be continuing. If we train a restaurant in how to be more dementia-friendly so that caregivers and people living with dementia can go eat comfortably and they know that it's not going to be an issue, a year from now, it's going to be a completely different staff there. You might have a couple people who were trained. Most of the staff then has not been trained, so it's something that is ongoing throughout time. Pima Council on Aging is working with community partners, doing trainings. We're trying to get as many areas trained ultimately as possible so we can have theaters that are dementia-friendly, barbers that are dementia-friendly, restaurants that are dementia-friendly, banks that are dementia-friendly, lawyers, yes, absolutely, grocery stores, anywhere that you would need services, that you would go shopping, that you would go for entertainment, all of the sectors, eventually in a dementia-friendly community, all of the sectors would be trained in this dementia-friendly, how to provide services specifically to people living with dementia and to their caregivers that are supportive, that are helpful. So all subgroups of the larger communities. So I mentioned this, businesses, government, that might be in bigger areas, making sure that the bus system, the bus drivers are trained in dementia-friendly so that they have people riding the buses, they know how to react if someone with dementia, is confused or is getting turned around, how to communicate best with them. Healthcare, obviously, religious, legal, personal services, going, those things that you go to do, getting your hair done. And, what questions should they ask? A lot of times there's small talk, and you don't think about it, but it can be difficult for someone living with dementia, and they're kind of trained to, okay, keep chatting, keep the small talk going, and it might not be something that's comfortable for someone with dementia. So having every area trained eventually.
Law enforcement.
What?
Law enforcement. Yeah.
Oh, very much, and can be an issue because of that impulse control too. Police are sometimes called. Someone put something in their purse, or they don't remember even putting it there sometimes. Yeah. So definitely having law enforcement, any first responders. Creating a welcoming environment, allowing them to be active, contributing members of the community, promoting those communication skills. The communication skills to me is one of the biggest things, just some of those even basic, 5 or 6 tips on what should you say, what should you not say, not engaging in arguments, trying to correct them, reorient them to reality. Basic things that will kind of allow them to have a comfortable experience, allow people to be more understanding in how to respond, how to engage. As each sector takes its own steps to foster support, the community, is coming together. That dementia-friendly community is coming together, but it needs all of those pieces working as cohesively as possible to truly be dementia-friendly community. This just gives some examples here. So for faith community, welcoming and engaging communities of faith, and I'll go into some tips for churches. Banks, dementia-aware responses for banking practices, transportation, housing, supportive neighbors and community members. That can make a huge difference. Someone just being aware, this is what I know someone in my community is going through this, or is a caregiver, how can I support them? Local emergency planning and first response. Meaningful engagement for community activities. Businesses that they are training their customer service agents how to be dementia friendly and use those communication tips. healthcare, long-term care facilities, promoting early diagnosis, accurate diagnosis, specialized care, residential offerings that have memory care facilities, activities. Some key principles and goals of dementia-friendly communities. The two main principles, we want to include and involve people living with dementia in the community effort. So there's a saying, nothing about us without us. So including people who are living with dementia, not just it kind of being, this is what we think would be best for you to take it. Kind of involving them in the process is a good place to start. Establish, maintain that team that works collaboratively to create change. And I think Green Valley in particular really has a head start on that. And you guys are already miles ahead of a lot of other communities with just the amount of willingness and commitment that you guys are showing that we are going to be a dementia-friendly community. There are 6 goals among dementia-friendly communities. I'll list all 6 of them. A lot of communities will choose, okay, we're going to focus on these 1 or 2 first, and we'll kind of build from there. Sometimes if you take on, we're going to do all of this at once, it might be a little much. So it's not something that you need to do all of this all at once. The first few, they're somewhat, I would say, prioritized. Increasing awareness and understanding of dementia and of people living with dementia. So providing the Dementia Friends information sessions, getting people talking about it, having flyers available, pamphlets available. You can't, jump down to creating social and cultural environments that are inclusive if no one is familiar with the topic. So one of the first things that we really want to do is just increase that awareness. Increase awareness and understanding of brain health and risk reduction. So you guys are already kind of doing that here too. You guys have a good start on that. Doing the presentations about risk reduction. Normalizing screenings, those cognitive screenings. We have someone who's coming, I believe, once a month, and he can do screenings here on site. Also, if you are doing Medicare annual wellness visits, they are supposed to be giving you a cognitive assessment every year. Whether or not they actually are is another issue. They're supposed to be. You are entitled to one. But normalizing those screenings, it can be intimidating, it can be scary, especially for people who are kind of thinking, I think I might be having some issues. I don't know if I want to know if there's a problem. I don't know if I want to get a diagnosis. I'm just going to keep maybe pretending everything is fine, hope things get better. Making that something that is just a part of normal healthcare, like a physical. We want to check on, make sure our body's working every once in a while. We want to do those cognitive screenings every once in a while. It's not a huge deal, everyone's doing it, Collaborate with public, private, nonprofit, and healthcare sectors to better serve people who are living with dementia and care partners. So these would be the dementia-friendly information sessions is basically pretty similar to what I did the first time that I was here. Just kind of an overview of dementia, some communication tips, better understanding of it. I have those that are sector specific, so that same basic information, but how can you, if you are a restaurant employee, what are some practices that you can do? If you are a bank employee, what are practices that you specifically can do? So getting each of those sectors trained. Addressing the needs of people with dementia and care partners. And you guys are already kind of doing that. You're identifying this is a need. We're going to start this group. We're going to start a group for caregivers because we're seeing that this is really a need. Addressing those needs, finding out what they are, and coming up with potential solutions. Creating those social and cultural environments that are inclusive to where it's not so intimidating. I want to go out. Can I go here? What if something, can we go there? That you're not afraid to go out. You're not intimidated to go out because if it is truly a dementia-friendly community, everyone is gonna be aware, can kind of recognize some signs, knows tips, okay, these are communication tips, I shouldn't say this. Improving the physical environment in public places and systematic parks, transportation, so that it's dementia-friendly, reducing some risk factor, fall risks, things like that. That, again, is kind of going to be one of the last steps. You're not going to just jump to fixing physical, like huge physical government buildings and stuff. We want to really start with increasing that awareness, and then once that base is built, then you can kind of go out from there. What can you do as individual community members? You guys are already doing a lot of this. Recognize what are the signs of dementia, how do they differ from normal aging, so that if you are seeing signs in yourself or someone else, you can kind of say, okay, is this normal, is it not, and not brush it under the rug until it is a very evident problem. Knowing local services that help people, you have, your resource table over there. If nothing else, you have people that you can ask, what are resources? What are resources that might help with this? Knowing who to go to. Any suspected abuse, neglect, financial exploitation, of course, you would report that to someone that you trust. The financial exploitation, we actually have people at Pima Council on Aging that specialize in that type of stuff. So for some of these issues, Pima Council on Aging might be a good place to start with that. Learning, educating people in the community about the signs of dementia, using those dementia-friendly communication skills, raising awareness in people across all ages. One of my longer-term goals here in Arizona, health is a required class for people to graduate with. We right now are targeting a lot of older adults primarily. The caregivers are going to be more in the middle ages. We have a lot of families in Pima County who have several generations in their house. Why are we targeting, just this one? If we can get into, young people in school, teach them some of the risks, they can share that information with their family. They can look out for that. They're also preventing it, looking for those signs, things to prevent, or what healthier things can I do from a much younger age, rather than, oops, I've been doing this for 40 years and now I need to stop, Responding, support people with dementia and their care partners and family, help them continue in their roles, developing strengths, kind of trying to focus more on what are the things that you still can do versus these are the things that you've lost the ability to do. Encouraging opportunities for people with dementia and their care partners to connect with others. So the book clubs, the support groups, these meetings, coffee hour. Just that ability to socialize is really so important. Raising that awareness, reducing the stigma around it, promoting it in your community. This is just kind of a quick plug for the screenings themselves, and I put a sheet out on the table that has these questions and a few more. Really trying to normalize those screenings, and we do offer them for free at PCOA if your doctor is not giving them to you at your annual physicals. Some of the common questions, well, I'm not having any problems, why would I go get screened? Because you want to make sure that you're not having, and if there were changes, and maybe this year you have 0 out of 8 yes answers. Our screening is very quick. It's 8 questions, in and out. It can be done on the phone, in person, Zoom. 8 questions. Maybe you have 0 yes answers. Next year you have 2 yes answers. Still a pretty low score, but in the time of the year, if those 2 have increased, maybe something to look into. So just kind of making that normal for all ages. And the more people that are doing it, if there is someone that you are concerned about, that you think, there's reason that I think that they should be screened. There are some things that I'm seeing that I think maybe, they might be having some issues. It's a lot easier to bring it up if there's someone that comes to the church once a month and we've all gone and done this. I just got mine, it was really easy, versus you, I think you have something wrong with you and you need to go do this. It's a lot easier to kind of say, oh, we've all done this, it's so easy. Have you thought about doing this? Dementia-friendly faith communities. So I go a little bit into church-specific. Some of these are just kind of ways that you can, ideas for things to do in the community. Some of these are specific to church services and facilities. Ideas for ways to support people living with dementia and their care partners. Just helping them feel loved, valued, sense of belonging, because it is isolating. Always assuming that a person with dementia can understand what is being discussed. A lot of times, there is a person sitting right there in the doctor's office, at lunch, and it's like a prop, There's a conversation going on sometimes about them as if they are not there. And while there can be some difficulty understanding language, not acting like they're not there, not having discussions, assuming that they don't know what you're talking about, they won't know, we can talk about whatever, they don't know we're talking about them. Assume that they do understand what is being said. Provide respite, assistance, volunteer companions. So this could be spending time with the person, kind of doing an activity with the person with dementia, so that the care partner can take a break, go run errands, that kind of respite. It could be they are going to do something and maybe you can help with some chores around the house, or you can cook a meal for them. Certain night of the week you are going to make a meal and deliver it to them. Things that they are still trying to balance in everyday life, either giving them a chance to do that or doing it for them while they're caregiving. Planning engaging activities. So it is really easy. I do presentations for caregivers, and I give them lots of ideas of activities. It is exhausting, when you're caregiving 24 hours a day, and you can have a list in front of you of all of these really engaging activities. If you are completely exhausted, initiating that might be hard. So, okay, maybe one night I'm going to come over and I'm going to bring this board game and we'll play. Or I'm going to bring over some music. You kind of making the initiative to set something up, because it's hard sometimes for them to get that started, because they're just so drained. It's not that they can't think of, yes, we could play checkers right now or whatever it is. They can know that that's a good idea. Okay, that sounds fun. The energy to really initiate that can be difficult. So sometimes it's easier if someone is like, okay, this time, this place, we're gonna come over and we're gonna do this. Provide ongoing prayer support for the person with dementia, family, care partners. That might include prayer chains. Again, I know I've said this about 20 times already, but it's just very, very isolating for the person living with dementia and the care partners. And a lot of times there's like an attitude of, well, they haven't checked in with me. I don't see them checking on me, so why would I check on them? Making a very intentional effort of, this person is going to check in with this person, or this day of the week, maybe making an appointment in your calendar at 6 o'clock on Wednesday nights. I'm going to call this caregiver just to check in, just to see how they're doing, or I'm going to call this person with dementia and just chat with them, whatever it is. Being very intentional about you offering that, seeing what are their needs. Memory cafes, you guys have the book clubs that you've done, support groups, or provide information on how to find them. If, not everyone can offer every single service. The services that are out there, though, you can say, this is how you get them, this is how you do those. Memory cafes are something that we have where people living with dementia and their care partners just kind of come together. It's not a support group style. It's the caregivers and the people living with dementia just kind of socializing, doing a fun activity. One time we had, a few weeks ago, we had Ben's bells come out, and we, painted the little coins for Ben's bells. And I had music videos, 50s, 60s music videos going on the screen, and we're just kind of hanging out, socializing. Everyone is in the same boat. It's not somewhere where you have to what if they do this, or what if this happens, or we need to leave, it's going to be a pain. Everyone knows what's going on because everyone there is either living with dementia or is a caregiver of someone with dementia. So it's a lot less judgment, a lot less stress of, can I go there, that anxiety. Everyone's in the same boat. Yesterday morning, we had one, and a live musician came in, and he plays the guitar and plays songs from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and I put up lyrics on the screen. And we just have a sing-along, It's not a formal, we're talking about dementia, we're learning about dementia, nothing to do with that. It's just kind of socializing, fun time.
Where was that?
So we have two of them at the PCOA building on Country Club. There is one at La Posada, which I believe is fairly close to here. They have one once a month. Alzheimer's Association has one once a month, but it's like on the north side of Tucson.
So the only one in Green Valley is La Posada.
Yeah, as far as I know.
It is fun.
Ideas for ways to support people living with dementia and care partners. Looking for those signs of care partner stress. This was mentioned a couple times, just the amount of stress for caregivers. Being on the lookout for that. Not waiting until it is overwhelming and incapacitating. Trying to look for early signs, get them the support that they need. Encourage care partners to take good care of themselves, which is always, is like, okay, thanks. Okay. Easier said than done, encouraging words. Continue to offer that support, even if it's turned down. They turned you down last time, offer it again. Turned you down again, offer it again. Keep offering. Maybe they'll take it up on, maybe they'll take you up, maybe they won't. Continue to offer that support. Sometimes giving specific kind of using the method of dementia-friendly communication tips of, I'm not going to ask you yes or no, do you need this? I'm going to give you a couple options of, could I cook a meal for you? Can I come in and do chores for you? Can I do an activity with them so that you can go do a chore? Which of those would be more helpful? And there was no yes or no, do you need help? Because a lot of the time it's going to be a no response. So sometimes kind of giving them things ideas that you have that you think might be helpful, or things that you've kind of seen that you can tell that they're struggling with this. Okay, let me take this. Would you rather that I do this or this? For services, and I will give you the slides. There's a lot of information packed on some of these slides, so don't feel like you have to remember everything. For actual services, some ways to provide support, offering help getting them ready, maybe help looking good. It can really make a difference in the mood if they're, oh, let me help do your hair. Let me help do your makeup. Something that makes them, kind of feel a little bit nice. Assistance with transportation. Be as positive as possible. Focus on strengths and abilities. What are things that they are still able to do, that they still enjoy doing, versus, oh, it's so sad that they're not able to do this anymore. Try and focus on things that they are able to do. Be understanding patient of appearance and behavior. If they do come and it's not something that you would ever think of wearing to church, and don't make really, this is what you're wearing today. We're glad that they're here, if they have behaviors sometimes, or say things, at inappropriate times, like this is the quiet time where we're all bowing our head and they say something out loud, like everyone in the church does not need to, turn and look at them. Just kind of roll with it, be accepting, be understanding of it. Physical touch can be helpful. Hugs, handshakes, some acknowledgement, some physical affection. The positive physical approach. I won't go through the whole thing, but a really important thing is how you are approaching them that can make a difference, whether you're a caregiver, whether you're just someone interacting for a few minutes. Their peripheral vision often is affected. So a lot of the time there's a kind of a tunnel vision. For anyone, if you're approaching from the back, if someone comes up behind you and puts their hand on you, it is going to startle you. If you also have issues with impulse control, that might turn into you getting pushed, you getting screamed at because you've startled them. So the positive physical approach, some of the basics of it are you want to come from the front. Kind of that tunnel vision, you want to come from their line of sight so that they know that you're approaching them. You might move a little bit slower than you usually would, kind of like 1 step, 1 second, 1 step, so that they have time to process what's happening. Okay, this person is coming toward me right now. Because that processing does take longer for people with dementia. What's going on takes a little bit longer to process just in the brain. Also because there can be some the input that they are getting is not always effectively deciphered. So us walking at a normal speed can seem like we are charging at them sometimes and startle them. So approaching from the front, going maybe a little bit slower than you usually would. Getting to eye level if you're talking to them, and that could be just sitting, in a chair, if they're in a chair, sitting in a chair next to them, so that you're not, because that puts you in a position where you're like, I'm a child, and I'm in trouble, and you're doing, that position kind of puts you in a defensive mode when someone is kind of in front of you, leaning down like that. So getting to eye level can help. Except be sensitive to behaviors that might be, considered inappropriate. Talking during what is usually quiet times, calling out, walking, just getting up and walking around at random times. Respond flexibly if it's something that is problematic. Having a designated kind of quiet decompression area can be helpful. There is somewhere that we know that if this becomes an issue, this is the area that we're going to go to and kind of decompress. If it becomes difficult for the family to attend or the person to attend, providing the streaming services, putting it on YouTube like you guys do, giving a DVD copy, whatever it is, helping them worship at home. These, again, just potential ideas. Some churches will have dementia-specific services. Sometimes they will designate, okay, the fourth Sunday of the month is going to be dementia-friendly service. Or they sometimes will have a small separate service specifically for families with dealing with dementia. Wearing name tags is helpful, just kind of having everyone wear name tags so that doesn't become so much of an embarrassing issue if you can't remember who is this person, Welcoming, acknowledging everyone. If you are going to have, dementia-friendly services, shorter, simpler services, inspirational stories that use basic language that aren't going into, big abstract ideas of, the Trinity, and this is the, simple parables, stories that are easy, easy to grasp. Familiar prayers, scriptures, traditional hymns, things that people know, would remember from a long time ago, not, new music. linking people with dementia and their care partners to someone in the congregation, maybe, kind of an additional partner in there that we're gonna sit with them, we're gonna train, support you, you need something, let us help you with this. Simplify tasks and directions so that everyone, including people with dementia, can follow them. Part of that can be using verbal prompts. Sometimes we kind of get into, okay, now we know it's time to kneel, or it's time, we do this at this time, or this is the response that we say to this. Having things that are being very clear with the directions. We are going to do this now. I say this, you say this. Or having, an outline of what's going to happen. Step-by-step instructions for tasks, and allowing people plenty of time to complete them. Because again, the processing speed is not the same as it is for someone who is living without dementia. Things take longer to understand those directions, and then to start kind of processing, okay, this is what I need to do. Physical spaces, providing that quiet area, directional signage. Yeah, sorry.
My husband isn't able to specifically see areas that I am fine in the morning, late afternoon. It's different, and he has trouble because I get ready for bed, and he falls asleep, and I get up and I unlock all the doors. And tonight, I think you're not telling me the truth, I did not do that. The city is using it.
Yeah. That is pretty common. Likely is what's called sundowning, and I don't know if you've heard of that before, but that is very common where things will be fine earlier on, and then the later that it gets, the more difficult or the more confusing that it becomes, the later that it is. Things that might help with that as far as the doors would be like door alarms, or sometimes they have like knob covers that you can put on there so that you just kind of can't move them, it's difficult to move them. It might be something too if there are other people who can come in, because obviously you can't stay awake 24 hours a day, and it's not reasonable to try and say, I'm gonna stay up and make sure that this doesn't happen. So that might also be another area that someone maybe can come in and check in at a certain time of night, or, can come sit there for a few hours. So, yeah, but that is very common.
My biggest thing is too that he can, look through the computer and see what I'm doing.
Yeah,
What was that?
things like cameras. Yeah, I have them because I have teenagers, but I have cameras they were designed to be baby monitors, but I have them in different rooms, and you can just kind of flip your phone on, look in the different rooms. You can set up motion alerts so that it's not going, there's nothing alerting you unless someone does turn on the light and start walking in that room, it will send you an alert to your phone type of thing. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm lucky that he, helps me rather than, but he still lies a couple times a day, and it's not true. I mean, it's not lying to me at all. But
Yeah, it's the reality changes is basically what it is, it's everyone's reality is not the same reality at that point. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very common, yeah. Physical spaces as far as in the church, and some of these might be applicable to home as well. That directional signage, clearly identifying areas like restrooms with the pictures on the outside of them, or the kitchen, something that identifies that this is a picture of the kitchen. Identify any areas of possible danger, steps, big equipment areas, kitchens with sharp appliances, dangerous appliances or knives, or restrooms if they grab bars in there. The water sometimes can be too hot, making sure that the water heater doesn't go over a certain temperature. Plants, if there are plants that would be poisonous if eaten, things that you don't necessarily kind of think about, but kind of doing a walkthrough. Sensory perceptions, is there too much going on to where it's going to be overwhelming for someone who is having issues with sensory perception. Fall hazards, people with dementia are about 3 times as likely to fall as people without dementia. So looking for any potential fall hazards. This, floor is pretty solid, so as far as the changing textures, sometimes, the churches will have like the runner going down, and people might get to that and stop because they don't know, is it a step up? Am I gonna fall into this? Is this like a moat? If I step onto this, I'm gonna fall into something. So changes in texture. Having a family or unisex restroom or changing area if possible, so that if they do need to use the restroom and a member of caregiver of the opposite sex needs to go in, it's not an issue of like we need to clear out the whole bathroom. Is anybody in here? And we need to do this. Having those grab bars, the water heat, making sure everywhere is well lit, not cluttered, arranged for easy physical movement. You're not navigating a maze to get from one side of the room to another. Doors and large glass areas. I don't see any like large empty glass areas. Those sometimes the perception can be that it is an open area that they can walk through. So putting things on there so that they don't walk into the glass. With the doors, and this could go for at home too, sometimes a really simple fix is just kind of covering the doors. People will try to go out the doors less if they can't immediately see them. They just stop thinking about it if they're not visible. And I believe this is, last one, and I'll take some questions, but if you are interested in doing a screening, or you want to meet with, we have what are called options counselors, and they're basically short-term case managers specific to dementia that kind of can walk you through the whole process, give you any resources that you need. And David is one of the options counselors, and he's out here once a month now on site here. But if you want to call the helpline this is the helpline for Pima Council on Aging. So you can get to Dementia Capable Southern Arizona through here. You can also get to, if there are other services that you're interested through Pima Council on Aging, you can call that same number. And we have a couple minutes.
Could you have people use the handheld microphone behind you there?
Yeah.
So then we can hear them on the camera, on the recording.
I should have mentioned, push the button. I should have mentioned that David Torres will be here next time. So in 2 weeks from today, on June the 7th, I think is June the 8th, is the Thursday. David Torres, who is the options counselor, will be with us and do the presentation at 3 o'clock. So we'll have a chance to hear from him about the kind of questions that he hears, the kind of things that he can answer. So I'm really looking forward to hearing David. So, and you had a question? Yes, no, two.
The first one is to you. Are these sessions being advertised in the paper at all?
I have not gotten anybody to take that responsibility on to get them in the paper.
And that's important. That's
And it's,
important.
Thank you for that. I'm really glad to have somebody offer.
I didn't know I did that. Early on, when we first started our first 6 forums, which we thought was just going to be 6 forums, I went to GVR and asked if they would send a representative, and they kind of said, well, that's not really our business. So I got to thinking that maybe a Pima Council on Aging
They might be a good target to do the Dementia-Friendly training. Yes, very good target.
That's actually part of a broader conversation that I want to initiate after this session today, which is what are those strategic organizations, groups that we need to address about becoming a dementia-friendly community. And so GVR is an excellent one to think of. How can we get them on board with this agenda?
Well,
So
especially if
that's
you're willing to take
right.
everybody's money.
So, and Helen has a question over here, so I'll pass that.
Not a question, I have information because I'm a bad penny in the community. A couple of things that are immediate.
A good resource to get HOAs involved, there is the Green Valley Council, which we have a monthly meeting of over 100 representatives. A subcommittee, which is where you actually get some work done, is the Health Committee. This would be an amazing place, so that's one suggestion. The second suggestion is, because I do go boom, 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 boom all over, I met this morning with the Parkinson's group. They're saying the exact same thing here. And the people are so isolated, but they've begun within their own group to have groups of the caregivers together, while the groups of the people are there, and the groups of whoever can help them is there. So that's one. We also have Friends Indeed here, which every single Friday, you can go there in the morning. It is free. They play music, and music is excellent for anybody. And so, and they have like a little breakfast thing. So I definitely encourage you to go out and get there. And then the La Posada, I went for the first time Saturday to the Memory Care Cafe. And I want to tell you, I was blown away. I just got in there, and all of a sudden you was thinking I was, because a lot of people said, we're new here the first time. I said, well, so am I, so we'll learn together. What impressed me, and within an hour, we did coloring, we did bingo, we did you put your right foot out, we did dancing. It was just wonderful. And people that had come in looking like, in fact, one, I mistakenly did a terrible thing. I saw a man trying to get into a building with this little white woman, very small, humped over. She looked like she was probably 100. And so I made the mistake and I said, are you taking care of your wife or your mother? And he said, no, it's my wife of 57 years. Well, I just wanted to go. So I said, I'm just so sorry. I'm just so sorry. And he knew I had misspoken. But he was very good. But he's going to possibly be interested, because in that group, I was pushing the caregivers' stress busters, which that's another thing I'm trying to do. So those are some things that you can do, but please don't sit at home. There are things you can do. There's a jam session at the Episcopal Church. You know, there are things, if you watch the paper, and I don't think, frankly, that enough organizations take care of what's happening in the paper. I mean, I think we should be promoting, there are places for addiction, there's places for art shows. Even if you want to take a ride to CPAC and just spend an hour looking at all the pictures that they have on display. It's free, you walk in.
Sorry, that's Community Performance and Arts Center in
Yeah.
Green Valley, yep.
Yeah, so anyway, that's my spiel.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to
The
make sure we
law
got
was
time for any questions directed towards Nicole today. Any others? Yeah, Marge?
Are the,
Wait for the microphone, Marge. Thank you.
Are the universities in the music area working on this project?
They, the U of A has shown some interest in working on this, and they have at least one, I think, research study going on right now with music, and then I think another one with dance as well, to see, teach people dance, and does it, is there any improvement?
That's another place to put pressure.
Yeah.
That would really, really be helpful, because that music is so valuable.
Yeah.
There was the Presbyterian Church prior to the pandemic. We used to have for caregivers, and I just went to be a part of it to help them out, where you could come with your person that you were caregiving, and we had music. We had the world, and there were singers that, didn't have a dementia partner and everything. It was very good, and it's unfortunate that that was squashed. And maybe that's a place to
Maybe something to
regenerate
start
it.
up,
It
yeah.
was great.
So I would just also like to put in a word about state of Wyoming has a commitment to be a dementia-friendly state. Wow, here it is, Wyoming leading the nation. I mean, we ought to look at our politicians, our officials, our government officials, and talk with them about, if Arizona is going to become the #1 dementia state in the country, we ought to be talking about how can we get this out.
I was just going to say to Nicole that I did also visit Friends Indeed, Green Valley Council, the Sheriff's Department. I asked all of them to send representatives, and they haven't. So again, that might be something for PCOA.
I love what Pastor Gary said about the state of Wyoming. That's where I'm from. And one of the ladies at our church, her husband had Alzheimer's, and she suffered through his disease until he died. And she was such an inspiration to me because of her kindness. And so I just smiled. And I had various friends that had dementia there. I think I'm drawn to them.
So we want to thank Nicole for being with us. And one of the things that strikes me, Nicole, in the presentation today is looking at this from the standpoint of respect, the respect for people with dementia. And that is such an important part, not to be belittling, not to make jokes, all of the other things that are sometimes a part of what goes on. And so it's just so important. And that presentation that you gave just helped me to feel that sense of respect. So thank you so much.
I just want to say that one thing about approaching somebody with dementia or anybody, a smile.
Yes.
Just smile. And they will smile back usually and become friendly with you and stuff.
Yeah, the body language, facial expressions, even in the very late stages.
Oh, you got
Yeah. Even in the very late stages when they cannot understand verbally what you are saying, the nonverbal is very much intact. So facial expressions, body language, the tone of voice that you're using, still very, very much able to understand that. So yeah, absolutely. Smiles, pleasant tone of voice makes a big difference.
Well, thank you again so much. And Kay, thank you for coming today and sharing your thoughts, and all the rest of you. Again, in 2 weeks, that is June the 8th, I think, isn't it? Amazing. June is almost here. 2 weeks from today, David Torres, who's the options counselor, will be with us. And in the meanwhile, let's think about the community we have and how we can begin to get the word out a bit more about what we're doing, but more importantly about caring for people with dementia. So thank you again.
Great job.
Thank you.
You'll be available for a couple of, if anybody has other things.